So welcome back. In this video, we've been going through all the HTML elements up until now. So if you missed anything, just go to the beginning of the playlist. So this is a complete playlist that take you through from beginning to expert in HTML and HTML5. So right now we're going to start with HTML form. So at some point in your website, you want to collect data from your user, so you need to get input from them. So, and that's what we're going to be doing in all of the remaining sections. So the most basic form input you use in HTML is called the text input. So like what you use for your username or for a search engine or for something like a password. So how do you have a text input in HTML? It's simple. We have this tag called input tag. That's it. So with this, you can see that immediately we have our input here, and you could actually type in it. So that's it. But then there is different kind of input actually. So the first one we're going to talk about is the text input. So we have this input called text. So now we know for sure that this input needs to take in a text inside, like alphanumeric data inside. So anything that is passed inside is going to be kind of a string or a text. So there are numbers input, there are password input, there is range input, different kind of inputs like that we're just going to talk about. So what you just need to understand is to get an input, you can see this input is like self-closing. So you don't have like closing like the one we have with li and open. So it's just like self-closing. So that's how an input button work. And if you click on this, you can get more info about input. So we talked about the Mozilla Developers Reference, which is amazing. So anytime you need to like know more about an HTML tag, you could just like over it, and then it give you some snippets about what this means and how does it work. And then if you need more reference, you could just click on it, and then it takes you to the website, and then you can be able to read more about it. So, and that's that. It's as simple as that. So you can do this, and it's done, and then we can go to the next one. Yeah. So I think we should continue to move forward because this is a very short video. So also there are some other things you could actually do to your text input. So like for instance, you can give a user a clue about what this text input does. So like you can give them like a kind of a placeholder. So you can give an attribute called placeholder, and we can call it just like name. You can see, so looking at that, a user can know that okay, this input button takes in name. Or we could tell them maybe age, and then the age is gonna show up. Or we could tell them so we can say like in this case, let's say we should make it cat photo URL. So, and you can say, so you can take an URL, you could take any kind of text because URL is a text anyway. So we want the user to just put a cat photo URL here, and then they can submit it. And that is how text input works. So you can run the test now, you see that everything works fine, and then we can go to the next one. So now another thing you want to do when you're creating all of these inputs, because you're going to have so many inputs in your website. So for instance, you can just have this one, but at some point you can have like a collections of inputs to collect some certain kind of data. Like for instance, for login in form, for instance, you have the username and password. For sign up, you have like maybe name, password, age, date of birth, and some of those things like that. And then if you are building a web application that have huge data collections, you're going to have a huge number of forms. So there are some times that you need to like put all of these forms together in the block. So that's why we have the form parent element. So if we had, for instance, wrap these inputs with the form parent element, you can see that. So now these have been wrapped. you can't see a visual change in this, but these have already been wrapped around, and then you know that all these input here are child of this particular form. And then you can also have multiple forms on the page. Yeah. And then another attribute that a form takes is what we call action. So this action, actually what it does, tell the data, like for instance, when you have a form on your page, you want to send that data to somewhere, so on the server. So this URL, this action can take a URI. You can see the URI of a program that processes the form information. This value can be overridden by a form action attribute in the button. But yeah, so you could have this action trigger here by giving it a URI that, okay, when this form is submitted, I want this URI to handle all of this form data for me, and then save it in the backend. But I wouldn't want you to like worry too much about this, because most of the time when you're working in the team, you as a front-end developer, you're doing the HTML, CSS, building the forms, then the backend engineers are going to give you this URL, and then you plug it in there, and then when you submit the data, the backend server, they take care of those data for you. So, but for now, just understand that this action is an attribute the form takes in. So I'm trying to pass this. So it says next the existing input element inside the form element and assign this. So we should take this URL, because currently you can see this URL is empty, and then we put it there, and then if we run it now, our test will run. So, and another thing you can do to your form is add a submit button. You know, we have this form now, we have the input, we have the URL to submit it, and then another kind of thing we can add to our form is a submit button. And adding the submit button is as simple as just having the button attribute tag. So you can see immediately I have this button attribute tag. You can see button being created for us. And then we can put the type of this button to be an attribute of submit. So you know this is submit, and then we could actually put something here in the middle, as I say submit. So, and this works fine. So we can see now, so we have other attributes for form. We can have something like reset, for instance. Maybe you feel something in your form, and then you click on this, it's gonna reset it for us. So but this is not a nice way to do it. We could just do like submit, and then we have another button maybe down here. We can call it reset or cancel, something like that, depending on what you want to call it. So you can see that, and then we can put the type here to reset. So this submits our data, and this resets it. So for instance, maybe I type gibberish here and I don't want it anymore, I could just click on reset, and that works fine. And that's how you will build a button. So say add a button to element with this type of submit and submit test, and if we run this now, should work fine. So we should have one. This is just for example purpose, but if you want to pass this test, you just need to have one button, and that should work. Okay, because I spell this wrongly, and that is why that is not working. So another thing you want to have in your form is actually an ability to be able to add validation to your form. So and that is exactly what we're going to do right now, because right now if I click on submit here, this form, you can see it works. So and we don't want that, because we did not actually input any data into this. So we want our data to be correct. We want to submit a data that is actually something that we can work on. So I'm going to reset this lesson actually. So we have this. So we don't want the user to be able to submit this form here without actually entering something into it. So, and what we could do to make this happen is to make this button, this input here, to be required. So we can add a required attribute. So the required attribute doesn't really like say anything. You just need to like tell the input button you are required. And now if I try to do submit, you can see you can go please fill in the data. So now we have to fill in that data before we could do anything. So let's say I put a URL that doesn't exist, www.scatphoto.com, something like that. So and then I submit, now it goes. But now we know that we have something, so the user doesn't just submit without us having anything. So, and yeah, I think we're going to stop here, and in the next video we're going to start with creating radio buttons, so which are different types of forms, earlier input also. Thank you, and see you in the next video.